Okay, I'm live. Now I just got to send the invite. I'm starting about 10 minutes earlier, but unfortunately, Cody is a busy man today. So we're going to try to get this conversation in as quick as possible. And hopefully he can get to doing what else he had to do. So let me just send this link to Cody here. One sec. And then, of course, I'll have to share the link to the social media pages. Get that done. Looking forward to another conversation today. This is going to be just another in the line or the series of Divided We Fall, as I've coined it. And yeah, if we don't get our act together here in Canada and start showing solidarity and some unity, yes, Canada is definitely going to fall even further than it already has, which has already been quite the drop, right? Okay. Get that sent out onto the Twitter and the Facebook. All right. That's looking good now. Hey, what's going on? And on Steve G, what up, my friend? Like I say, hopefully, well, I just sent the message or the link to Cody, and hopefully he'll be getting on here shortly. I'm sure some of you folks will be familiar with Cody. I'm just starting to learn about. Actually, I didn't hear much about Cody till within the last couple weeks or so. But based on what I've observed and the videos that he's uploaded on Facebook, I believe it was Facebook Live videos, seems like a guy that's got the same kind of ideas as I do in terms of at least trying to get together and showing some unity in this country. And like I say, this is what I'm trying to do, is reach out to as many people in this country as humanly possible and talk about and discuss this. Because just like with Mark, even though it didn't completely get, all the wrinkles weren't ironed out entirely, but at least we were, somewhat cordial to each other. There's things that we have to discuss, and sometimes those are uncomfortable discussions, right? Especially when you're doing them live. But that's the only thing to do. We have to talk, right? We have to talk to each other. We have to sort through these issues, and you have to do it in a manner that's befitting of such an issue. In text form, yeah, that's not going to work. We have to talk to each other, and that's why I'm really happy to be having these conversations and be having one with Cody here shortly. Hey, what's going on, Jesus Gonzalez? How you doing today, sir? Like I say, just give it a moment here. See if did Cody get the link? Yeah. Okay, so I see that he's seen. Oh, so now I just gotta wait till good people are good people. Yes. I agree. That's the thing, though. Actually, yeah, that's the problem with humanity. We're all fallible, right? So we might be mostly good for most of the time, and that's the thing. There's no way to. There is no one size fits all when you talk about humanity or individuals, because we are all unique individuals. So to me, right, the most important thing to do, no matter who the heck you are, is let's set up some very defined rules that are universalized. Doesn't give anybody a leg up or advantage over the other, right? And let's just try to do our best, to adhere to these very important fundamental principles if we're going to interact and engage socially or economically. Real simple concepts. It's politics. It's politicians. It's these pundits. It's your thought leaders who make these things, these concepts that actually should be quite simple and easily understood. It's them that make it so difficult. Why? Because they want to keep the people confused and confounded, because then they can come across as your experts and your thought leaders and tell you how to think about them rather than what to think about them rather than how to think, right? Anyways, let's see. Oh, just say up yours. What's going on? Enjoyed the hashing out differences yesterday's show. I did too, and I'm sorry for everyone in the chat, but it's been a while since I've had those kind of engaging conversations. I want to make sure that I was hyper focused on talk with Greg and Mark. So I'm sorry that I did kind of avoid the chat to a certain degree. I'll do better in another stream. Well, I'll do an AMA stream so that we can just talk amongst ourselves, right? And another thing too is I would like to do a stream specifically regarding this whole unity thing, because I think that is really, really important, and just getting the feedback from all you people in the chat, that would be important as well. So we'll get to that eventually, like I say. Oh, I think I see Cody right there now, so I'm just going to add him to the stream. Hey, what's going on, Cody?
Hey, man, how's it going?
Excellent. Well, you got a pretty good connection there. Anyways.
Yeah, not too bad.
Actually, mine's turned not too bad today, but I'm in a rural part of New Brunswick, so it's hit or miss. So some days, well, we have the provider that we have, depending on how many people are using it, it can really slow you down. There's some days where I'm only getting speeds of like less than 1 megabyte, which is unbelievable. So it's really hard for streams. So I do apologize for anyone if my end of the stream does end up being poor in quality, or you get some drop frames from time to time. But anyways, I'm really happy to have Cody on here today. And I know, Cody, I was mentioning the reason why I even went a few minutes earlier, because you were saying that you're busy, you got other things to do. So I wanted to just to kind of touch down here. I want you to kind of explain to the people here, like kind of what you're what you folks are doing. And I believe you're in Ottawa, correct?
Yeah, you bet. We've been encamped at the War Memorial since July 1st. I picked up a torch and joined the Canadian Revolution to draw a line in the sand and make a stand, right? I mean, we all know that there's some pretty crazy things going on in the world today. We're all under an extreme threat, in our opinions, and it's becoming more and more prevalently seen that we need to make a stand, and we know that the one-day protests just aren't enough. So what we're doing is a movement, and we're trying to inspire other people to make a stand. We've been sitting here at the War Memorial. We have a booth set up right by the curbside, and we've been engaging with the public day in and day out for over 50 days now, I think.
Excellent. Well, that's excellent. Well, that's that to me, and that was, I don't know if you got a chance to see my stream with Greg yesterday. Not sure if you know him, Greg Coolin. Do you know him?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Mark, I even brought Mark in. He saw the stream. I brought him on. We had a little disagreements, and we're still probably going to have disagreements, but I kind of try to hammer out a conversation with him, because to me the biggest thing is kind of like which is why when I watched your video and it showed up in my feed and I seen it, I was like, yeah, this is the reason why it appealed to me and why I wanted to talk to you, is because that's something that I've been trying desperately to try to figure, what are we going to do? Because we're never going to get to the point where we're all going to agree with each other and everything, and trying to get to that point, it's like we're all standing over in the corner, like at the water cooler, bickering amongst each other, while all the authoritarians and the collectivists and all these hacks are just running up, and we're all over here fucking. And these guys aren't even being, nobody's confronting them at all, because we're all busy fighting amongst each other for the most part. And to me, that's right. That's okay if you can look and the conflicts and all these things that are happening are far off into the future that may be the potential. You can take that kind of time and hammer out the ideas first and foremost, right? Which I still believe that we need the culture in this country before we can ever get politics to do anything for us. But like I say, we have to, if we're going to do this, because we're all seemingly divided, then people are picking their tribe of choice, and they're all functioning in their little echo chamber. So all of us basically, and I'm going to include myself in this and claim guilty in my own. And then we're all basically talking to each other that just agree with each other. It's like, well, if that's the case, we're only going to be constantly functioning in our little echo chambers, and we're all divided. And just like I named the stream, just like one yesterday, is divided, we will fall. And every one of us, if Canada falls, we all lose. I don't care what side of the political spectrum, or what your background, or what your position or your occupation, we're all going to suffer. Well, maybe not all. There might be a few select people, right, in certain positions who might benefit from that. But from you or I, or most Canadians' perspective, we're the ones that's going to be the losers. So
great. The only problem I've seen, man, is it seems to be a repeating pattern. I know that the grassroots movements have always been open to everybody else's messages. They've always allowed anybody else with any different ideologies to have a platform. Yeah. Right. But I don't see that being reciprocated on the other side. And it is honestly a repeating pattern. And to me, I see that as the true division. Sure, yeah, we might not agree on everything, but I think everybody deserves the opportunity to put forward what they want to say. And unfortunately, it seems like the political realm has adamantly silenced all of the grassroots movements for so long. And then when they get called out on that, they turn on the people who are calling it out and screaming, "You're dividing, you're dividing." When I see the true division being those that are actually, it's like Antifa. They literally will censor anyone with an opposing opinion. They do so violently, but I see the same thing. It's the same gaslighting happening to the grassroots movements. They're 100%. The ones that are being deplatformed. They're the ones being silenced. And then it's being turned around on them as though they're the ones who are being divisive and I don't know. It's so backwards.
Yeah.
It's like Bizarro World land, man.
Is that ever resonating with me? Because I'm not sure if you're familiar with anything I've done in the past, but I'm a philosophical libertarian. I don't play politics. I just understand the concepts of ideas, and I just extrapolate anything. Like just say with any intellectual endeavor that you undertake, if you take a principle, you just extrapolate what that means in the social realm and the economic realm. And once you've done that and you're consistent, right? Instead of making excuses or contradictions in your mind, you realize that even the pretense of having a state in the beginning. I mean, it's something that it's in the past, but in the future, do we need an authority? Like, do you think just like slavery, it was something that was normal for millennia, right?
Yeah.
But we learned that we don't need to have masters, right? It's okay to be free, right? To have sovereignty, to be autonomous human beings. Well, we haven't actually completely escaped that. It's what it is. It's just the ones that want to be our rulers or our masters, they've just tweaked the narrative. They've tweaked the system so that the structure appears that we have some semblance of freedom. So rather than taking 100% of our labor, they take what, 50, 60%? But I've even pushed back against that nonsense, because in reality, even a slave, even someone that's actually owned by another human being, had to have a roof over their head. They had to have food in their belly. They had to have, not much good picking cotton if they're dead because they starved it out, right? So this is the problem and what I try to do is not to create division. What I realize is the only thing that's ever helped me to break free of all the political bullshit and the propaganda and the indoctrination that we're all subject to as little kids, basically, and throughout the course of our life, is to have the whole truth, not little truth, not play politics, not suggest that this party is the one that we need to put in power or this. Now, I do understand that politics is still going to play a role because, we're not going to wake up 37 million Canadians overnight. I get that. But the people that are promoting the actual ideas that actually will unify us, right? Because the only ideas that can truly unify us as a people is we shouldn't be using force or theft, right, as a means to our end when we're socially or economically engaged with each other. Now, I think most humans, and even Mark acknowledged yesterday that he would say most Canadians, have those basic fundamental principles reside within them. And I would even agree with him with that. Well, if that's the case, then stop playing politics, be 100% forthright and honest with people. And then once we realize that, okay, the emperor has no clothes, don't mean we have to tear the emperor down. Don't mean we have to storm the castle. It just means that now we have the right mentality to be able to move forward and to move forward. Because if we keep playing politics, it's literally just whack a fucking mole. And I'm like I say, after 50 years of watching this shit, and everyone that keeps saying that we need politics I've watched every time the election comes around, everyone's like, all we got to do is just vote for this. And I've watched that happen over the course of my entire life. And matter of fact, never have I ever seen liberties ever come to exist or expand. It's always been a detriment and more harm to liberty.
Right.
So,
and it doesn't matter what side's picking up the torch, it's always the same like the slow decline, right? The slow boiling pot and the reduction of our rights and freedoms or national sovereignty or whatever, right?
Yes.
And I mean, honestly, I agree that there is going to be a need for politics, and I'm not discounting that. There's always going to be some type of representation or something that needs to take place. But like I said, it's a recurring pattern. I see it in Wexit. I've even seen it in Mark Friesen, where they recognize the information of the grassroots movements. They even say that they agree with it. I mean, Mark himself has the Forum for Canadian Sovereignty, right?
Yeah.
And they even recognize that the information is true, but they run on the pretense that the people aren't ready for the truth. And I myself, I cannot get behind that, man. No. I feel that the only reason that the people aren't ready for it is because they don't even know about it. It's like we're all making a decision to a question that we've never been presented with, right? And It's time that the people are educated and they understand the true reality of things so that they can make an adequate decision based on the information. Now, to openly say that you know the truth, but the people aren't ready for it, to me, that is just complete arrogance. That is, you are willfully misleading people, and I will never stand behind that.
Yeah, and that's actually, I agree with you. And as much as I don't want to necessarily drag Mark through the mud here because he's not here to defend himself, but although I've always said to him, come on, I'll always talk to anyone every time they want. But he even has repeated the phrase too that people like myself have been saying long before the PPC ever come to exist, is because we understand that, yes, culture, like politics is downstream. So he'll even repeat and parrot those phrases, but then it's constantly talking about the politics. So it's like, well, don't you recognize that the logic contradictions roll in your mind when you acknowledge that you have to change the culture first before you worry about the politics, right? And the only way, like I say, I know my journey has never been by someone, no one that has ever told me that if we just get rid of this party and replace them with someone else, that's everyone that's ever told me that has never helped me to understand any of the concepts that I understand. The only time I understand the concept is when someone actually told me the cold, hard, brutal truth. And yeah, it was hard at first. You get that cognitive dissonance, just like when you realize, as a kid that I was raised in a religious family, right? And just some of the concepts that you realize it's really, really far out there. But I realized there was some good in it, some bad. But I can't keep living my life believing in mysticism or false concepts, because then I'm not going to make proper decisions, right? Then I'm basing my decisions on mystical concepts that have no basis in reality. Well, I'm never going to make the right decisions in life. The only time I've made the right decisions is when I've been properly informed. Doesn't always guarantee that I'm going to make the right decision, but it's really, it is basically a prerequisite. It is the only recipe where that is actually going to take place. So that's what I'm with you with that. Yes, it's going to be cold, harsh truths. A lot of people are going to have to go through a lot of internal dialogues, right? They're going to have to, I've had to do it. That's the thing. It's like, I know exactly how difficult it is. I've had to break free from this kind of mysticism that, like I say, was jammed in our heads. It's not your fault. It's not my fault. It's just a continuation of the way this culture has been shifting, right? It used to be that religious, like Christianity was our guiding and moral ethical principles. And the point of church, separation of church of state is a great concept. Why? Is because the beautiful thing about, and I understand why post-Enlightenment era, that even the founding fathers, why it was so important to still maintain your morality and ethics based in this abstract entity called God, is because once you place that in human beings, infallible human beings, when you place it in like the concept called God, now other people, you can make up in your mind whatever you want to define God as being, or even if you're a secular person and you just want to consider it an abstract concept, because morality is something that we humans invented. It's not anything in nature. But for it to be universalized, just like with a mathematical equation, it has to be an abstract where no human being gets to redefine it anytime they want, right? And that's what politics does. It seeks to take a universality, remove that universal consistency of the message or the principle, and play it into a subjective realm. And once you've done that, then it's just a matter of who has the best message, who's the best propagandist, right?
Well, I mean, in reality, Canada was founded upon the fundamental justice and the supremacy of God. Even within the parliamentary building and the House of Commons, the entire building is filled with inscriptions, from the Bible verses. And I understand that in this day and age, we have a lot of people with a bunch of different ideologies, but even the United States Constitution gave recognition to the Creator, right? Yeah, and exactly. that is the supreme source of our rights and our freedoms. And, that's just a natural law. As far as the separation of church and state, it's a tough thing, right? Because when you look at our heritage and what the fundamental principles that this nation was founded upon, as well as several others, it was, like you said, that was the moral compass that drove us forward, created the progress, and gave us a standard to high ourselves to that higher moral standard, right?
Right. Well, what I like about what some people that have tried subsequent to that, so you can go back to the earlier years of the 1900s, to even to the mid years. Well, she was alive right up to the 80s and 90s. But Ayn Rand, she tried to create her own secular form of ethics called objectivism. Now, there was still a little bit of realm left there, just like with the founding fathers, for this concept of government being the ultimate ruler or authority, right? But it's been expanded upon since then by people such as, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Stephen Molyneux. He's a very popular, actually the most popular philosopher on the internet. But he's basically taken that concept, because what we realize is some people aren't going to necessarily be beholden, especially the younger people, aren't necessarily going to be beholden to what we, as the older people that understand like Christianity, God, Jesus Christ, and all this stuff. So what it is for the people that don't want to get to that point, you need some form of secular ethics that basically mirrors or replicates the same kind of ideals of what the Christianity and what Jesus represented. So first and foremost, it has to be about the individual, right? And that's why Jesus and the New Testament was so much different than the Old Testament. after Reformation is because it placed the emphasis on the individual. And then another thing I hear people, they confuse just because the emphasis is on the individual. And I think Mark even said that was like, well, you want to live in an island all alone. It's like, no, but if you're going to have anything remotely resembling rights or freedoms or liberties, if they're not afforded to the individual, if they're just afforded to the group, well, what is the group? There is no such thing that actually defines a group, because in every group, you're going to find people that disagree and have different preferences, different, subjective opinions. So no, it has to be down to the individual. If you want to respect human rights at all, well, it has to be taken all the way down to the individual.
Right, and the unfortunate reality is that most people don't even understand what their rights are. Like you said earlier on the show, we've all been indoctrinated. We've been pruned to accept privileges and benefits rather than understanding who and what we are and what our rights and freedoms truly entail. And
Exactly.
I mean, that's an unfortunate reality, and I think that's a very important part of the educational process that the public at large need to undergo. Like, this is the kind of stuff that we should have been taught in our schools. We should have been raised with these proper ideals and understanding these things, right?
And you know what? We would have been, because it would have been naturally incentivized to do such, because like anyone that, like the founding fathers of any country that even tried to attempt anything remotely resembling, giving individuals their freedom, is the only way that continues on, just like Thomas Jefferson said, is, you need an educated population. If you don't have the people that understand these very basic but very important concepts, then it doesn't take long before tyranny starts to creep in. And as we've seen it basically in around a 200-year mark, and we're seeing that take place, and not just hold in the US, but all around the Western world, this is taking place because people have turned and pivoted away from the ideals of God, from those principles that were universalized, right? Because there was no such thing in the Bible. The 10 Commandments didn't say, rules for thee, but not for me, right? That's the beautiful thing about Christianity. It was rules for everybody. Everybody had to abide by the exact same rules. So it was that universality. Whereas
right. And how?
Right. Go ahead. Sorry.
How can we, as any one person, vest an authority to another individual or another group of people that is greater than what we have as an authority for ourselves?
Exactly.
That is another massive misconception that I see with government authority, is we're actually granting them the ability to do things that we cannot do ourselves. And what gives us the right to grant anyone an authority higher than that which we have ourselves? It's
exactly. And because you understand that concept when you say that, but even though I've known this for years, but even when I hear another person say that, I still kind of get a little bit of a shiver. Why? Because that is such a profound acknowledgement that most Canadians are not privy to. And it really disturbs me that anyone would want to try to interrupt or dissuade or divert the attention from people like you or I that's trying to help. Like, think about just what that little piece of information that you just said right now, think about what that would do to the mind of most people in Canada when they realize, because at first they would reject it, just like myself when I first heard these concepts, like, whoa, that does not compute with my pre-programming, right? So, but eventually all you got to do is sit there and run that scenario through your mind, and you're like, shit, fuck, he's right. He's absolutely 100%. There's no way I can work around that. That is a logical conclusion, based on a universal objective standard, right? So to me, to have that kind of knowledge, and how much that, not just the knowledge, but that kind of truth, how much power that brings to the table, because it literally is what destroys like the emperor has no clothing. Like I say, how you get people to recognize that is give them that very fundamental concept, because then now they're not dealing with politics. Now they acknowledge, now they see exactly, Trudeau for what he is just a guy that's got a lot of propagandists, a lot of people that are willing to spew the political talking point, to give him some semblance of authority to do what he's doing to the rest of this country, which in reality, if most Canadians understood that, no, it's all illegitimate. He has no inherent right. Nobody can give him a delegated right, like you were saying, that they don't possess themselves. If people understood that concept, like I say, I think politics would be put in the back burner. We could get to the point where let's at least stop the fucking bleeding out right now, right? Let's stop it right now. Let's do some emergency repairs here, and then once we've got the patient band-aid up and they're at least going to survive, then we can sit down and discuss and hammer out, just like they did hundreds of years ago when they were trying to figure this stuff out after they left Europe, right? Our forefathers, we can hammer all that stuff out by having discussions and conventions and all this stuff. But come on, like I say, we got to stop the bleeding now. And right now, Canada's pretty much bleeding out. So,
right,
time to take action, right?
Yeah, well, it's more than bleeding out. We're being we're being bled out and we're being refilled with another substance that isn't a lifeblood. We're being drained, and I honestly think that it is totally imperative that, like you said, we stop that bleed out and we stop what they're attempting to inject back into us, because it's, I'm sure you're aware this is part of a global initiative that they're trying to push forward, right? And I mean, it's so evident. People have called it conspiracy and all these things for so many years, but they're not even hiding it anymore. It's right out there. It's in our faces. You literally cannot deny it unless you have your head securely buried in the sand, right? And
yeah, and only listen to the CBC, right?
Yeah.
Because there are people that I know, like in my private life, that literally that's the only way they get their information. It's like, oh my God, I could basically tell what they're going to say before they even open their mouth, because all they do is, you can tell they're not thinking critically about anything. They're just basically parroting what someone on the TV or the computer or something told them without even testing out the hypothesis. They just take with blind faith. That's the thing. At least test out some of these things but people are unwilling, because it's just so much easier and so much more comfortable to just go along to get along, especially if you personally aren't being affected. Now, myself, I've felt the heavy hand, right? I've seen the beast up close and all this stuff. So I've been have been privy to and seen much more things that a lot of typical Canadians haven't, which is why I realize this is going to be a very difficult thing. So because we are in such a difficult situation to try to wake up this many Canadians, like I say, the only way that happens, the only way that I think we can be successful is if we all choose to, all of us that actually are privy to this kind of knowledge, like I say, put the politics aside and show unity with each other. Because if we can all show, because that, like I was saying to Mark and Greg yesterday, we have to be the ones that lead by example. We can't be just saying, you got to do this, you got to do this. We got to lead by example. So we got to say, okay, I'm putting aside the fact that I don't necessarily agree with some people, but we got to come together. And the only thing we can come together, like I said, when I think in my mind, what are the only things that we can rally around and show unity under is the principles of liberty, which is self-ownership. I own me. Nobody has any claim of ownership over me, right? Property rights. So anything that I produce or provide, through my intellect or through my labor, that's mine. Nobody has any claim over that. And the simple concepts that most of us learned as kids, and it was because of Christianity, for the most part, was, don't hit and don't steal, right? Really, really simple fucking stuff. And the fact that as adults, you got to go through this much of a quagmire to even get people to understand these concepts that, like I say, we all understood them pretty well as kids, right? So why is it that we've all grown into adults and now somehow those concepts seem, strange, or the people that are trying to talk about these things, like, it's really weird when I'm trying to tell someone, you should be free. And they're like, no, like free, like, so, you've had a lot of programming, a lot of conditioning for a person to reject freedom. And that Stockholm syndrome is very much real. And then there's the other flip side of it too, that's uncomfortable. Nobody wants to talk about, but I do it all the time. And I have them in my family, and no, none of them will talk to me. But there are 4.1 million Canadians. There's probably a lot more now, because this is a figure that was pulled from StatsCan a couple of years ago in a CBC article, that work for the government in some capacity, whether it's federal, provincial, or local. And like I say, I'm not saying everybody that works for government is bad, but the natural incentive is they're not going to want to shoot themselves in the foot. So
right,
we're up against
it's preservation of their security. That's what we all do. And I mean, I think that's why people en masse are so willing to accept that which they don't agree with, is because of fear, right? They're controlled by their fear of losing their security, fear of losing their means of provision, and all these things are really what hold most people back from doing what they feel to be right, or to follow what they truly believe in. And I think that if everybody actually did follow what they believed in and did follow and were true to their hearts, that, the security and all these things that they're afraid of losing wouldn't be an issue, because we would have a world where everybody is copacetically doing what they know to be true, following what they know to be right, and much greater things would come as a result of that, right?
Yeah,
exactly. But how do you inspire? How do you inspire the people, their hearts and minds, to stand against that which they know to be inherently wrong?
Right. And to me, like I say, the only thing, and I can only go by my own personal anecdotal and subjective experience and the information I've heard from other people who have come to this point and position, is the only thing that's ever worked for me is, like I say, the unbridled truth. No matter how harsh it sounds, no matter how much people don't want to hear it, no matter how much they want to plug it, the only thing that works is telling these people the truth. And like I say, it's not that I would even suggest that all the people that work for government, we should just, fire them all tomorrow. listen, in a market environment, because all these services that are needed, whether it's a correctional officer like Mark did, or people to be police officers or healthcare workers, there's always going to be demand for those particular kinds of positions. It's just it's the funding model that has to change. So rather than just holding a gun proverbially to everyone's head and redistributing that wealth to people that I don't know if they're going to be competent in using that wealth, and I don't know if that wealth is actually going where it's going to be, because I have no say in the matter, right? If it's done voluntary, then that puts personal accountability on both sides of the equation. I can withdraw my support for someone that's not holding up to their end of the bargain, right, in a private type of market setting. Whereas if someone could just take from me without my consent, then I can basically, I'm forced to pay for the people that want to enslave me. It's like, well, that's kind of immoral, right? I would suggest that's highly immoral. So there's always going to be a place for people that provide services in society. It's just that we have to get rid of this old style mentality that we need force and violence to make that happen. Because if you want healthcare, I want healthcare, and I would want some kind of a safety net for people, and I would be 100% willing, right, to put in 5% or whatever, even if it was 10%, whatever it would require, I would want to make sure that I'm protected, my kids are protected, my grandma, and it's just called insurance, right?
But it's unfortunate that a lot of these government services the cost for these things are hyperinflated. Like, we all know the gambit, we know how it operates, and that's where it has to come down to actual hardcore scrutiny, hardcore transparency. Yep. It's a runaway train at all levels, whether it be municipally, provincially and federally. A lot of the services that are provided it's atrocious the way that the spending is actually taking place and the costs that they're paying for the services and for the resources. It's mind-boggling, right?
Oh, 100%. Especially when you're talking about, they always promote that they care about the poor, but just the $1 billion+ alone that, well, I think it's just, is it the Ontario or is that the federal one? I'm trying to remember now. I think whether it's the federal or the Ontario, but I think it's even Ontario because it has the largest sub-sovereign debt. But I think it's about $1 billion just goes towards paying the interest on, and the interest rates are really low as it is. But so where would that $1 billion be going elsewhere if it wasn't going to pay on all these debts and unfunded liabilities or things that, once again, market forces has always shown, and anyone that's ever worked in the private sector knows that, like, how you can tell when someone that's never worked in the private sector is when they think that a business owner has this magical capacity to force their customers to buy from them or their employees to work for them. Like, I get this concept when people talk about, like, here's this guy whipping everyone, and it's like, no, as a matter of fact, you can quit, right? That's the thing about a private relationship with an employer is you can quit at any time and go to a different one because you have a multitude of options. Government, only one size fits all, and you don't have no option to opt in or opt out. So it's like, come on. Even some of the people on the left, it's like they're rail against corporations. These corporate execs, I don't trust them that they would be benevolent, but I trust that if you could take away their yacht and their beamers, if they fuck you over, I'm pretty sure they would act better. I'm not saying it's going to make
right. And moreover, when you have somebody providing a superior service, being a better boss, treating their employees better, that's where the breed for competition comes in, and where it holds it into check. Like you said, when we have a government that is just, they are the singular source of these services, they're doing it unfettered, unchecked, without anything to compare against what they're doing and what they're offering. And it gives them the ability to slowly, same as our rights and freedoms have slowly been dissolved, they can dissolve the quality of the services being provided. And there's nothing to stand against that to make them lose their support, right?
It's terrible. And like I say, there's so many amazing things that, and so much pent up energy and that entrepreneurial zeal that could be unleashed right now. But actually, that's one other thing. But I don't want to get too far into the whole economics thing, because I could rail on about that stuff entirely, about the incentive structure in terms of economics. But yeah, you could get a lot of pent up demand that's out there right now. But once again, there's a lot of people that realize that when the game's rigged, a lot of the smarter people, right, they're like, I don't want to enter into a game that's already rigged because I'm going to lose out at the end, right? The people that will enter into these kind of rigged games, they'll try their best, but at the end of the day, they realize that they just got to gravitate to where the power's at, which is why they lobby, to squash or quell competition and stuff. Because without government in that fixed or rigged system, the only way they can benefit is by that race to the lowest common denominator, which is to use government like force as their means to an end or to prevent competition. Whereas in the market, like I say, and this is like the thing that drives me nuts is if Canadians realize that this is nothing new. I'm not some genius that thought of these amazing things and I should be I'm relying on information of people that lived hundreds of years ago, like Adam Smith, right? I don't know if you ever heard of Adam Smith, but he's basically considered the father of economics. He was a Scottish Enlightenment era figure. But he even coined a phrase something along the lines, it's not the benevolence of the butcher or the baker, right? That gets why they get out of the bed to bake your bread and all that stuff. No, it's because they want to provide for their family, right? So it's not that the private business owner is going to be benevolent because they're just holier than thou. No, they're going to do so because, like you were kind of alluding to yourself, is the only way they're going to draw that customer base is by doing the right thing. Because if you have choice, well, the customer's going to go wherever wherever the corporation, the business, or whoever it is that's going to provide the service at a decent price and reliable and consistent. And so, like I say, there doesn't have to be a top-down structure. It only has to be so that the incentive structure is set up properly. And the only incentive structure that has ever worked is to take force off the table and allow people to use voluntary interaction. That's how you find out what's going to work best for everyone. And there's never going to be a time where one thing is going to work best for all people. So that's why we have diversity and competition in the marketplace. Some people will like certain things. I know even myself, I might, in particular things, I might want to buy stuff on the lower end on the economic scale if it's something that's just I consider a throwaway item or something. Whereas if it's something that I want to hold on for long, I want that competition in the marketplace allows me to make so many decisions in real time based on a tremendous amount of fundamentals that no central planner can ever know, right? They can never know these things. Anyways, let me get away from that because, like I say, I could go on the whole economics thing like crazy. But what I did want to say before I let you go, and I know you do got to go because you got stuff to do today, but I wanted you to let everyone know in the chat here, like what you have. Well, obviously the revolution was just called. Just name out whatever places that you want me to add in the description of this stream so that people can find you. And help support whatever your movement is, and if you have any social media presence, just so. But like I say, so that the people that typically watch my channel can see what you're all about and see that like there are people from all over this country that are actually actively working and participating in these kind of movements. And like I say, if there's a few people from your group, a few people from mine, and a few people from Greg, if we can all see that we're basically all working for the same goals, then I think that can help us to maybe create the unity that we're all yearning for.
Yeah, for sure, man. We do have a strong media presence. We're on Facebook. We have the Canadian Revolution group. We have the Canadian Revolution page. We're also on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We have a YouTube channel. Awesome. We're also we have a website which is www.thecanrev, so TheCanrev.com.
Okay.
Yeah, thecanrev.com for anybody who wants to reach out and email us. We have an email address that is info.canadianrevolution@gmail.com. Again, that's info.canadianrevolution@gmail.com.
Okay, at gmail.com. All right, so there's that. Okay. And like I say, the Canadian Revolution, I got that page pulled up right here now. That's actually looks pretty sweet, actually. That looks like a nice site. Good for you for that, that's for sure. So anyways, like I say, so in addition to that, was there anything else that you want to add to the conversation today, or do you have more time? I'm just, because I know you had to go, so I don't want to tie up your time, and I can ramble on in case you haven't noticed. So just let me know, like I say, if you want maybe.
Yeah, I guess I could throw out what we got going on here. Hugs Over Masks on August 26th of this month is meeting at the Ottawa City Hall because they're doing the amendment to their bylaw 186, which is pertaining to the mandatory masks.
Okay.
We kind of had a bit of a gambit. We were following that along and trying to get a copy of the bylaw, which was really difficult. So that event is happening for people to go and stand. We're going to go there and stand with them at the City Hall and try to gain access. They said it was open to the public last time, but they actually had the building closed down and security at every door, and they weren't allowing the public in. Then there's the big event happening on the 29th of August, which is being hosted now by The Line. It was actually originally organized by a lady who was in this encampment and then kind of helped or passed the torch off to The Line. And there's they're expecting like 200,000 people on Parliament Hill. We're moving the encampment to the hill, to the Parliament grounds, and several other groups are joining in on that initiative and doing a Parliament Hill occupation. Basically to continue the movement, to have a large group of people, several different groups and initiatives joining in on this cause to, draw that figurative line together and stand in unity and say enough is enough. Moving forward from that, we have a 50-50 draw that we're currently promoting. It's a 1 in 4,000 chance to win. We're going to be doing the draw on September the 7th on Parliament Hill. There's supposed to be an event that day. September the 12th as well is going to be the CCFR is hosting their anti-gun ban rally, so that's going to be pretty huge. We're obviously going to be there with them and showing support for that. And
as a New Brunswicker, I can tell you that resonates with a lot of people in my particular neck of the woods, because I grew up in this part of the country. It's probably the same like out west in Alberta, where it's very, very much like every household you go to there's an ATV, probably an old three-wheeler, and lots of guns, right? So but it's one thing I keep telling people, because I've lived in the big city and the rural areas, and the thing with people in the city, and they get this pretense of the gun culture stuff. If you've ever even remotely been out into these like areas, I've grown up in, I've never got, you might have read something in the paper, some isolated incident, but most gun owners I've ever met in my life are the most responsible people you'll ever meet when you're talking about that, because they recognize what they have in their possession, right? They know like it has the potential for it to use for deadly force, so they're very proactive.
And statistically, most crimes are committed with non-registered weapons. These are illegal firearms that have been smuggled in. I mean, this has been said by so many different police officials. You can look at the statistics yourself. Obviously, responsible gun owners aren't the issue. They are not the problem, and yet they have always been the ones who are targeted. And you take a look through history, even with gun registration and restriction of gun rights and the removal of firearms. It's a pretty dangerous precedent, and we need to learn from that history so we don't allow it to repeat itself.
Exactly. Well, that was the most important thing, other than the freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of association. It was that Second Amendment in the U.S., and the Founding Fathers made that so fundamentally important, and they pounded and hammered away at the message. And is that Second Amendment is the only way. It's literally the only way you ever have any chance of maintaining any of your freedoms, because the minute the government has removed any potential threat from the citizenry, you're just sitting ducks, right? If you're completely disarmed and helpless, well, you're not going to be very effective in holding, tyranny at bay. And that's the thing. The Founding Fathers understood that tyranny usually happens from within. Foreign invasions, they definitely happen. But most of the times, most countries are taken down from within, right? From people.
Just like the movements.
Yeah.
Just like the movements, just like
But actually, I want to mention one other thing to you, too, because I don't know if you've ever talked to any of these folks, and I'm trying to, because I'm noticing it's weird, actually, because I'm seeing people that are actually on the right and the left now, because usually, historically, it was mostly people that were anti-vaccination seem to be particularly on the left. But I'm seeing today with the whole mandates and the COVID, where I'm finally seeing a little bit of unity, where people on both sides of the political aisle are kind of come together and supporting this. In Canada, they have it's called Vaccine Choice Canada, I believe it's called.
Right.
And I don't know if they're going to show up in Ottawa at any point in time, but I haven't really had a video with them yet. But I'm hoping eventually I can talk with the lady through email exchanges, and hopefully I'll get a chance to do that, because that's another thing. To me, it's not about your particular cause. At the end of the day, we have to keep pointing out that whatever your cause is, even if you're a single issue person as a libertarian, the most important thing is to respect your sovereignty and your autonomy. Now, I'm not anti-vax entirely. I believe in some vaccines, taking some vaccines, maybe some not. But I should be, as a human being, I should be given that option, that choice. Now,
and I think that's where the amalgamation of the it's spilling over into the far right side is the fact that it is being pushed to a point where that right to self-determination is on the precipice of being removed, right? So
exactly. And like I say, and just like that is, you can take people from both sides of that political divide, and they'll both acknowledge that even though they might disagree on particulars, but they will both agree on at least the concept, the ideal, the principle, which is to stop forcing and imposing your will onto other people. That to me is something that, like I say, and that's the part where we don't have to worry about. Every time I bring these things up, no matter who I'm talking to, everyone always says, "Oh, I agree. Oh, I agree." So then this shouldn't be that difficult. It really should, right? If we can all agree that let's not force or impose ourselves on each other. Like, let's stick, just like we were all, and I use this example all the time. If we were to sit down and play a board game with each other, we all know that nobody's going to want to play the game unless everybody's got to be beholden to the same rules, right? Because then the minute somebody says, "Oh, I not only do I get to be the banker, but I get to actually choose how much money everybody gets," you're like, "Oh, I'm not playing this fucking game," right? So we all know, no matter what position you are or who you are as a Canadian citizen, you all know the only way this experiment works, like in terms of like the country of Canada, is if we're all beholden to the same standards, at least in terms of how we treat each other, right? And like I say, that's the beautiful thing about negative rights, is it's not that I have to impose myself, it's I just need you to restrict yourself from doing anything that imposes your will on me. That's it.
Right.
And that's something we can all do 100% all the time, and there's no inconsistencies there. It's a universality, which is something, like I say, we should all accept. And I haven't heard anyone say, "No, I want other people to be able to control every aspect of my life." When you talk about them in particular, they agree with you. This disagreement usually comes with, "Oh, but I want to impose my ideas on my opponent." Well, that's the thing. You don't get your freedom if you're not willing to give your opponent their freedom too, right?
Yeah. No, I agree.
But anyways, so did you want to, like I say, do you want me to let you go there now and try this up?
Yeah, I should probably run. We got some stuff. We have a bunch of meetings tonight, and we've been sitting here working tirelessly on some of the projects we're looking to put together, and had a bunch of people contact and some new things come up that really require attention. But I totally appreciate the platform, the time.
No
I appreciate your perspectives, and the amount of information that we discussed today is absolutely amazing. Like I said, I hope that the large percentage of the majority may someday come to understand these very simple, logical truths, and can understand fundamentally what they mean and understand who and what they are. And once again, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you having me on the show.
Not a problem. And all I would just ask, if, like I say, any of those links, I put a couple of them down, so I'm going to try to remember doing myself. But in that Facebook message where I sent you the link, just post a couple of those links in case I forget, exactly where they were.
Oh,
the one
lost
you want
the mic
me
here. Lost my audio.
Oh, you got no sound?
There we go. There we go. I got it.
Could you hear me? Oh, hello? Hello? I guess. All right, whatever. I guess that did. Anyways, let me see what's going on in the chat there, folks. Because, like I say, I know Cody had to get to do some stuff, but like I say, it's great to have a chat with. I'm very happy to see that there are more and more Canadians, and I'm really proud to know that people like Cody and whoever else has joined them there in that encampment that are willing to do that. Hey, what's going on? Bring them back.
Sorry about that, man. Yeah, I went and hit back and it cut me right off. But yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, no problem. Like I say, all I ask is, like, I wrote down a couple of them. Well, I got your website there, and I think I got the email thing. But any of those other ones, like the events that you're talking about, just share them in a message on my Facebook, like when we were exchanged back and forth, and I'll put them all in the links of this stream. All right.
Awesome. Sounds good. I'll send you a meme that we got, or a poster that we made for all the events. I'll forward that along.
Excellent.
All right, thanks, man.
And thank you and everyone else that you're associated with for everything you're doing to stand up for the liberties of Canadians. Like I say, that's actually what keeps me going, is knowing that there are many other people like yourself that are doing these things. And a lot of times we're not getting the pat on the back, right? A lot of times we're actually going through a lot of shit by doing what we're doing. But I'm so happy to know that there are other people like yourself that are willing to pick up that burden, that load, and carry that, because I think it's important for the future of this country.
Well, I appreciate it, man. And you're right. Most people that do pick up that torch and aren't playing by the status quo have very heavy repercussions as a result of it. And I honor absolutely anyone who has the bravery to stand for what they believe in spite of the adversity and the opposition that they face. So
yeah.
I put my thanks out to absolutely everybody in all these movements and who have the courage to speak and stand up against these things as well.
Awesome, Cody. Well, you're an excellent spokesman for liberty as far as I'm concerned, and we'll talk to you again soon. All right, man?
Thanks. Take care.
No problem.
Okay, bye.
See you later. So, like I say, great conversation. Cody seems like an excellent guy, and I'm really glad, like I say, to see that him and folks like him are out there doing their best today. Because as you folks know, things are getting pretty crazy. And yes, I agree with you, Jesus. Cody Haller, thanks for standing up. 100%. Great. Seems like a great guy. What's wrong with the sound? Oh, no. Was there a problem with the sound? Kate Becker, 740. What's going on, Kate Becker? Thanks for all you folks that joined in the stream today. Like I say, I'm going to keep going for a little while here and see what all you folks are saying. Okay, what do we got here? Paul Lucas, what's going on? Paul, hey, salute to your level-headedness yesterday. RE being talked over by guests repeatedly. I try, like I say, and I'm probably going to falter from time to time because, like I say, I'm an imperfect human being too, but I am trying to, like I said to you folks, I'm trying to improve as best I can. Like I say, I'm going to try my best. I got to try to even though I am a very compassionate person, sometimes I think I do even myself let my raw emotions take a little bit control and maybe it kind of overrides my intellect at times. So I'm always, like I say, I'm always trying to work around that and do the best I can. But as long as I know the people I'm engaging with we're functioning at least in anything remotely resembling good faith, and we're really discussing ideas because we care about these things, then yeah, we might disagree. Matter of fact, we might have big arguments, but as long as we can put that stuff aside for, the ideas that are so important, then like I say, I'm willing to swallow my pride as many times as I have to, if need be, for those ideas, for what liberty entails and what it means. What's going on, the Kirk? Yeah, way to go, Cody. What's going on? Thanks, CL, for the stream. My pleasure. Like I say, I love having these kinds of conversations. And actually, they're what embolden me. Just when I start to get, where my excitement starts to peak and start to level off and I start to feel a little bit pessimistic about the future, it's stuff like this that brings me back up and puts me back on that upwards trajectory. And so, like, I thank you folks, I thank people like Cody for helping me, because that's what helps me keep me inspired and going on. Hey, what's going on, Rika? Always nice to see Rika, the hopeful volunteerist, in the chat. Hey, Bennett and Gas. Yeah, Cody was like I say, another Canadian that is out there standing up for Canadians' liberty. And like I say, really, really glad to hear from him. Okay, what else we got here? Hit the line, folks. It helps. Yeah, hit the lines. Let's do everything we can, like I say, and especially in Ottawa. I would love to see 200,000 people. Oh, what a beautiful sight. What a beautiful spectacle that would be. And that would be so different in comparison to anything I've ever seen or witnessed in the past. And think about the spectacle. I'm sure the media might try to ignore or avoid it, but it would be so prevalent on social media that they'd have to cover it eventually. Otherwise, then if they didn't, well, once again, it would show even more, right? If there was a 200,000 strong protest in Ottawa and the media chose not to cover it because they were fearful to show that, Canadians are finally coming together, well, then the Canadians would see the media purposely is trying to put down or quash the grassroots movement in this country because apparently they don't recognize it's going to benefit them, which means they're in the back pockets of government. And we know a lot of the media hacks are in this country. So, I would love to see that spectacle take place, and I would love to even participate in if I got the opportunity. So, awesome. I'm glad those guys are doing that. Oh, Gato, what's going on? Hey, guys, just finished my break, but I thought I'd say, hey, right on, Gato. Thanks, and hi to you, my friend. Hey, the Kirk. Hello, mods. Oh, yes, Rika, the volunteers, and Gato. Yes, the mods. Right on. Just say happy yours. I love it. The majority don't want to know the truth. Ignorance is bliss for most. That is an unfortunate reality, but you know what? We have to get better at articulating and explaining to the people that believe that maintain the status quo is it may be beneficial for them in the short term, and it might have even been beneficial to them in the medium term, right? There might have been a lot of years of their life, maybe decades, that they benefited from the state or government largesse and redistribution of wealth, right? Or some social policies. But at the end of the day, the people that it's causing harm to are the ones that's on the other side of that equation. And especially if you're from the older demographics or generations, surely you must realize that if it's a detriment to the younger generations, but you've benefited from it, well, on the flip side of that is when you lose your positions of power and authority and you're on the other side of that equation, which all humans come to, where you're going to rely on those younger generations, right, to take care of you in your older years. Well, like I say, that's the beautiful thing about, holding yourself to a standard and making sure you're not just all about you, but about you, your kids, your grandkids, because like I say, there's that reciprocal aspect. That is the thing. All human beings were born. We come into this earth resting and relying on everyone else around us to take care of us, and we go out of this earth in the exact same manner. So even the people who have benefited from big government now, or you're gonna see the detriment. The detriment comes later, and it's actually going to come at the time that you're going to want. Like, I wouldn't want to be going through the harshest times in my life when I'm in the most vulnerable position in my life, right? No. So like I say, it's time for even some of the people in the older cohorts of demographics to, yeah, you might have benefited from the system, but it's been a detriment to your kids and your grandkids. And, like I say, it's your kid and your grandkids that you need to be focusing on your attention on and showing unity and solidarity with them. Because if you're relying on big government to take care of you when you're no longer a vote or a benefit to them because they've moved on, because they will move on eventually, right? And then you'll be left. And I mean, even if you look at what happened, in as a consequence of the COVID outbreak, 85% of people who died are people in government controlled and regulated long-term care facilities. So does government truly have your best interests at heart? I think you'd probably be much better off with a family member or being or someone that actually cares about you personally than relying on some bureaucrat or a faceless person that creates policy that never actually plays out the way they pretend in the real world. So anyways, like I say, let me get back into the chat. Like slow, not line. Oh, like slow, not lines, unless you're sharing it, right? Oh yeah, unless you're sharing. Good one. That's funny. Good one. Okay, what do we got here? There's only one universal law, the law of cause and effect. Well, that is true. There is always cause and effect. 100% with you there. Natural law is the only law, but these guys are going to get all wonky any moment. Yeah. I agree. Natural law should be the true and only real laws. To me, natural law is an eye for an eye, but we are governed by British common law, so criminals can be free to reign the brands of. Yeah. Well, the eye for an eye, like I say, not that I'm a big fan entirely of the like, if someone kills it, you must kill. I get all that stuff, but yes, it is actually the threat of an eye for an eye is the only thing that properly holds people at bay, right? It's if you cause harm to me, I'm going to cause harm back to you. That's really, and if you think about it, government is that threat of violence, but what it is people remove their sovereignty, their autonomy, and their personal responsibility to defend themselves and offload to some entity in the hopes that entity is going to do a better job than you would. Well, I think you have a much better incentive and are going to do a much better job, I would suggest, to defend yourself than some, like I say, mindless bureaucrat or someone that doesn't know you from a hole in the ground. But of course, I agree wholeheartedly. And that was Nut and Pearl. Hey, what's going on, Nut and Pearl? Thanks for joining the stream. How far back am I here on this anyways? 12, 13. Ooh, damn. Yeah, these are from a long way back. So let me scroll down. The myth of government is a lie. I agree. So let me scroll way down to I see Leo in here. One sec. We are the keeper of own free will. Be accountable for yourselves and your actions, not that of others. Exactly, Leo. 100%, buddy. Right on. What else did we have here? Rika. Might I suggest Mark Passio's natural law seminar on YouTube? On YouTube, yes. 9 hours of solid education and understanding what natural law is. Yes, I actually didn't watch it entirely, but I watched quite a lot of that one there, Rika, because I think it might have been from you when you mentioned it before that I watched that. And yeah, very, very important. Lots of great information contained within that. So great for offering that. But like I said, let me get way down because I see that I'm way back into the 2 hours ago stuff. And I'm sure there might be people that are like, he's ignoring me. I'm not really trying to, folks. Just trying to go. Or actually, maybe there wasn't that many in the chat. Anyways, I guess everyone kind of realized I was a little busy here talking. So, okay, I don't know much about Santos. Oh, so you guys must be talking amongst each other. I like to keep an open mind. Listening is good. Exactly. Yes. And I do a lot of listening. Now, when I'm on doing my videos, people think like that. And I do. I talk a lot. But the only reason why I have all this information where I can ramble on for hours on end is because I've listened a lot too. I listen a lot, but you don't get to see me listen because it'd be kind of weird, right? And all those actually I spend way more hours in a day listening than I ever do talking. That's 100% true. 100%. Spend way more hours, tremendous amount more hours of the day listening, right, than I do talking. But you're not privy to that because it'd be kind of weird if I was sitting there watching videos or reading books or literature and all this stuff, or listen to a podcast while I have other people watching me, right? It'd be kind of weird. But yeah, I agree. Listening is very important because even though I have lots to say, I also am very attentive to people who have who are privy to knowledge that I'm not already privy to, because that's the only way I've ever expanded on my intelligence or on the concepts that I understand is by listening to other people, even to people that, like I say, I don't necessarily would agree with. People always say, why do you post CBC articles, or then I'll post like National Post articles, and people say, oh, you're a conservative, and other people say, oh, you're a lefty. It's like, no, the reason why you're confused is because I'll listen to people from all sides of the spectrum, because like I say, there is no one size fits all where just one person or one political ideology or any of these that has the corner or the market cornered or has monopolized thought or ideas, right? No, that's there's a lot of people that contribute to that, and you need even the whole left, right. You need a balance, right? You can't just all run and worry about everything that right wingers promote. No, there's some good ideas that come from the left as well, and there's lots of good ideas that come from people that don't identify from either side. So yes, keep an open mind. I definitely agree. That's a wise thing to do, is at least keep an open mind. An open mind is probably the most important and crucial thing that we can do is listen to each other, listen to, and you get some of the nuance of what people, if you listen to people enough, and even if you disagree with them, based on if you listen to, like I say, a breadth of what they have to say, you get a better understanding at least where they're coming from. Is their heart in the right place? Is their mind in the right place? Is their spirit, their soul? Are they, are these people doing things because they believe them to be moral and ethical things to do? If they do, and they're just the wrong, they want to be moral and ethical, well then just maybe just help them understand where maybe some of the concepts that they believe, even though they want to do the right thing, maybe the prescription that they're offering or is on offer maybe isn't necessarily conducive with what their goals are, and maybe that will help them better reflect and think about that thing, so that they're actually not just virtue signaling, but actually taking those ideas and putting them into fruition in real life, in the real world. No opting out of the call. Yeah. Yeah. No opting out, right? That's the sad part of it is. What's going on? Let's see what's going on down here. Cody having some feedback. Okay, so that's still way back here. Great guest, listens and doesn't interrupt. Yes. No, Cody's a great guest. Awesome. Great guest. He was a great guest. I like him. Good show. Thanks, C-Mac. Yeah, I do too. Yeah, he and like I say, I was watching his live Facebook feed, and check out, like I say, go on his page, on his live, even his own personal page, because I believe that was his personal page anyways, and then the Canadian Revolution, like check all that stuff out, like I say, because I'm sure you'll see that a lot of these guys are saying a lot of things that even people like myself are saying. So there's a lot more out here in Canada than even I'm aware of. So, and I'm looking to find all these people, because like I say, it's helping inspire me to see that, yeah, we're not as isolated and as alone as it may seem or may appear. A good idea is a good idea. Right on, Howard G. I agree, Howard G. Anyway, so we're at an hour and 1 minute, and actually, it doesn't look like there's much else in the chat, and that's fine. An hour is it's good. I think we got a lot of information out there today just in this short stream. And actually, did I see DD Raptor? Did I do that? Wonder if CPC race is already rigged for McKay. Yeah, it sure seems that way, doesn't it? Because the media and the CBC, right? They seem to want to pump them up and at least put that thought in the people's mind that, oh, he's the best man for the job and he's the most popular man. Apparently, it's like, nah. Like I say, don't fall for the nonsense. But when it comes to the Conservative Party, to me, it'd be nice if there was someone that would at least pretend to be in opposition, right? At least put on a good spectacle, because I haven't seen that for years from the Conservatives, really. But at least someone, like, whether they're sincere or not, but can you at least put on a spectacle where it seems like you're pushing back against this kind of insanity that's taking place today? Because that is really vitally important, right? And but once again, I don't pay too much attention to the insider politics, especially for some of the establishment parties. But yeah, I don't know whoever's going to end up being the leader of that party. Like I say, I do hope. Well, it'll be just more of the same if it's McKay. But maybe if you get, what is it, O'Toole or Sloan, or even that Leslin, if it's anyone else, you might get something. Right? There might be at least something that'll stir up and shake up the base of conservatives, that'll wake them out of their slumber. Right? I don't know, because they definitely need it. That's for sure. Although all those conservatives who are disenfranchised with all the current establishment, yeah, there's a home for you. And if you want to play into the politics, well, that home is, check out the platform of the Libertarian Party of Canada, and you'll see that Find a good thing is find something in the Libertarian Party of Canada's platform that you disagree with. I guarantee you'll find that you'll agree with a way more in their platform and policy positions than you will in any of the other establishment parties, if you're a principled person, that is, because that's what the Libertarian Party of Canada is all about. It's not necessarily about politics, but about taking principled positions and, acknowledging and allowing for the night watchman state, that minarchist state, in the transitional period before we get to the point where we all finally recognize that we don't need rulers, right? And I hope that happens sooner rather than later. But like I say, there's going to be a transitional state. There's going to be a transitional phase. I don't think we end it because if we end the state tomorrow, well, I think a lot of havoc will be wreaked, even maybe more. Although you never know, could work out good. Once again, that's pure speculation on my behalf. I don't know how things would unfold. But nor am I personally fearful of it. I'm not fearful of anarchy per se, but a lot of Canadians are. So like I say, before we throw out the baby with the bathwater, just acknowledge that we do have, a healthy culture. We've got the ideas in terms of libertarians and anarchists and voluntarists and such, but that, until we can wake up the rest of our fellow Canadians and get them up to speed intellectually in what the state represents, then we're going to need something to help transition. And like I say, the only party that I could ever trust, with those reins, with that kind of power, is the Libertarian Party of Canada, under the leadership of Tim Moen, because I know that he's a principled man, and even though that power would be corrupting, I guarantee he's not going to want to hold on to it for very long. If nothing more, like I say, even what Tim has said from himself, is to espouse the ideas and the principles. So he's more like the Ron Paul statesman, which not in the way of a statist, but where he's just using the pulpit to expand on the ideas. Because even Ron Paul himself, and happy birthday, Ron Paul. That reminds me, before I tie this stream up, today is Mr. Ron Paul's birthday. What is he? Let me check again how old he is. But yeah, Ron Paul, great man. And like Ron Paul himself has even admitted, if you press him on it, he'd identify as an anarchist, right? That's a man that's saying something that, like I say, very few, well, how many other politicians would be willing to say that end the Fed? And the state is a mystical concept to begin with, right? So, but so he, 85 years old today, 85 years young, actually, Ron Paul, 85 years young today. So happy birthday to you, Ron Paul. And thank you for all that you've done to help expand and enlighten a lot of people's minds, not just in America, but even in Canada. Because Ron Paul played a key and pivotal role in helping to expand me and starting to learn some of these concepts in regard to libertarianism, because that's all it took, was to hear those very fundamental principles, that is part and parcel of what the libertarian philosophy entails. And it piqued my curiosity and my interest to the point where I chose to go down that rabbit hole. And I'm very glad that I did, because it has greatly expanded my mind and how I perceive of the world. And I'm in a much better place to have even though I'm still always learning, but I understand things a lot better, a whole lot better than I ever did before. And that's what I want to bring to Canadians. I want Canadians to get up to speed. I want, like I say, that Enlightenment era 2.0. That's what I want to happen in the information age, in the age of the internet, is let's bring that Enlightenment era 2.0 to light, and let's see where it can take us, and where humanity might proceed or progress further, because I think the sky is the limit once we get people up to speed and understanding these concepts. But anyways, like I say, yes, for sure. Ron Paul for president. Wouldn't that be great? Oh, wouldn't that be awesome? Who else is there? Tim's good. Yeah, I like Tim. Tim is awesome. He's a really good guy. I like you. I'm voting for nobody. That's right. I'm with you. I'm with you there, Rika. Anyways, like I say, folks, thanks for joining me in the stream. This here actually doing an hour and 7 minutes long might actually get more people willing to watch it, because some of them might not want to put in those 2 or 3 hours that I typically do. So I'm going to tie this video up. And like I say, thanks for all you who showed up today. Thanks again to Cody for having this great conversation. And like I say, I'll put a link to all those sources to find Cody and some of his social media presence. I'll put that all in the link of this stream below. So everyone, have yourself a great day and have a great weekend when you get to it. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.